Okay, good. I think we're ready. For those of you who are attending virtually, this is kind of weird. There's live folks in the room and there's folks virtually. If you look in the chat, William Aubrey is part of the Tableau team. He's going to be helping me with questions as far as what's in the chat. So feel free to put your questions in the chat at any point. William, you can text me or you can there'll be time for questions at the very end, but I'm going to try to do this in a way where we make sure the virtual folks are covered and the folks in the room. Now, for you folks in the room, you have a question, by all means, just let me know at any point. We'll kind of jump right into it. So with that, I think we're good to go. Hopefully this works out live and virtual at the same time. If not, blame some of the other Tableau team. I'm a speaker today. Yeah, it wasn't my fault. Okay, with that, today we're going to talk about the top 10 most underutilized features in Tableau. But first, let me start with the Charlotte Tableau user group, because I want to thank you guys for joining us today. For those of you who are not local to Charlotte, we are the Charlotte Tableau user group. If you ever want to know any information about future events, that's our page. I know this is weird, I'm pointing in different directions for you virtual folks, but this is basically where you can learn about any kind of events and anything that we have going on. It's just usergroups.tableau.com/Charlotte. I say this to say that this is kind of our centralized content type of a page. Events, community things, our YouTube channel, it's all here. And the community channel, I do want to bring up, if you have any if you guys ever want to talk to each other, you have job postings, you have a Tableau question, the local Charlotte Tableau community actually has a forum, and it's actually this link here that says community. And like I said, anytime, people reach out to us, it's like if you're looking for a Tableau job, if you have a Tableau job you're looking to fill, can't encourage you enough. The community forum, directly linked to the page I just showed you. Good way to talk to each other. Sometimes it's best, you guys you don't always need us. You can kind of, work with each other and kind of get what you need out of it. So with that, I think from a housekeeping perspective, we're good. Are we good from a housekeeping perspective, Edmund? I think we're good on that. All right, so let's jump into today's discussion. So again, I am Rashid Minott, and I'll tell you a little bit about me before we jump in. This is my Tableau public page. I'll throw in what I'm going to call Rashid's little tips every now and again. First, Rashid little tip. If you don't have a Tableau public page, create a Tableau public page. This is just, I didn't always work at Tableau. Long story short, I'll kind of be honest with you, how I found my way to Tableau. I'm a guy who spent about 15 to 20 years in the banking industry, but somehow I'm still young. Don't let that fool you, and you can see here, this is actually my Tableau public resume. I like to push Tableau to the limits. I'm a creative guy. I like to sit there and see exactly what can be done in Tableau. And I've been doing this for a while. And it's ironic, the last time I think I spoke at one of these, Tableau user group meetings was the time Jeremy was congratulating me for becoming a user group ambassador. So that was 2 years ago. And back then, oh, that's right, you did nominate me. Well, thank you. So let me tell you about me and how I got to where I'm at. Back in 2020, I was a senior business intelligence analyst at Wells Fargo. I was also a co-lead on the Charlotte Tableau user group. Jeremy was nice enough to nominate me to be a Tableau user group ambassador. I got selected to be a user group ambassador. Tableau also had a contest that year for the first time. They did something like Iron Viz, but they did it for the financial services community. They called it Battle of the Banks. I submitted a dashboard and I won. And then, long story short, I found my way to Tableau. Literally, I spent 18 years at the banks, you can see from the resume, basically within risk and compliance and data and analytics, building dashboards almost for a living. And I did that starting around the TIAA CREF days, so 2016, 2017. And by the time we got to 2020, I had built probably a few hundred dashboards. I had actually started to really curate my craft, and I think they noticed and they hired me. So I say all that to say that I spent the last 2 years, almost 2 years at Tableau. I've opened all the doors. I've looked in the basement. I can tell you kind of what's happening. There's stuff I can't tell you about. But the reason I bring all this up is because I think this is a really good session for everyone, virtually or in person, because I was a guy that was really, I love Tableau Conference. I love, the Flurlich twins and Jeff Schaefer and all the folks who teach me about set actions, parameter actions, using Figma to do nice designs, doing all sorts of creative stuff in Tableau, parameter actions, the whole nine. But there were always things that, one day I'll look at that kind of stuff, you know. And it wasn't until I started working there that I started to realize that even myself, some of these underutilized features, number one, I didn't see them because my company didn't have them. Or, you know, I'm going to show you there's 10 features on this list. The first 5 come with Tableau. Literally, there's no additional price. They straight up come with Tableau. You either already have it today or you will have it very soon. In the fact that I don't know what version of Tableau everyone's on, you know, depending on what version you're on, that's going to depend on whether or not, you know, you have this feature right now or you'll have it in the future. So the first 5 on this list are part of Tableau. The remaining 5 are paid add-ons. I'm not here to get you to buy anything. I'm here just to show you what they do, because that was a thing that no one ever showed me. It's like our company doesn't pay for it, so how do I know what it does? And I'm looking at Taylor because I know you're in that position right now. So that's kind of why this session I thought was important, that I want to show you these features and truly how they work. Not from I have PowerPoint slides. I'm not a PowerPoint guy. I'm going to be jumping into Tableau a lot. So I've got slides. The good news is what I want to say is I always try to keep this kind of thing in mind. If you have to leave early, if you have to drop virtually early, again, I do a lot of stuff on Tableau Public. I built you a dashboard dedicated to today's topic. So if you have any questions about any of the things that we're going to talk about, augmented analytics, metrics and collections, the data management add-on, business science, this is my Tableau Public profile. I built this dashboard yesterday. All of the links that I'm going to talk about are here. So literally, don't worry about screenshotting stuff. Don't worry about, you know, all that kind of stuff. I'll try to make this as kind of straightforward as possible so that none of this is complex, no matter what stage of Tableau that you're at. If you're super new to Tableau, go to tableau.com. From tableau.com, go to products, and then basically click on Tableau Public. Once you get to Tableau Public, again, I'm telling you, you really should create a Tableau Public profile for yourself, but just click on the link to say go to Tableau Public. And then from here, from the search icon, my name should be in this invite. Just look for Rashid Minott. Quickest way to find exactly what I just showed you. It's going to show you some of my visits. You can go to authors, and that's me. So 5-minute version of getting right back to this link. I mean, by all means, if you can, you know, if you want to copy the link as it's being shown right now, I just wanted to say that don't worry about links. We can get you links to kind of all this information after the fact. But I just want you to know that, you know, we're going to talk about, like I said, these underutilized features. And I'll try to pause, you know, after each section for questions, but I know this is a lot. Some of these features, there are features here that you could spend an hour talking about just one feature. So I'm not going to be able to cover everything, but I just kind of want to give you an idea of kind of how it works and that kind of a thing. So with that, unless there's any questions before we jump in, I'll just kind of jump right in. So with that, and William, do me a favor and keep an eye on the virtual chat because I can't see that right now. So top 10 most underutilized features in Tableau. Let's just jump right into it. The first one is going to be in this bucket that we call augmented analytics. And again, we help people see and understand data. Now, augmented analytics, when we talk about AI and machine learning at Tableau, and again, I will always kind of show you that what I'm showing you is not something that's going to be necessarily hard to find. If you want to be able to kind of follow along on Tableau's homepage, if you will, tableau.com, just go to solutions. And I believe halfway down the page, there's going to be something on machine learning and AI. AI and analytics. Click on here and say learn more, and you're going to see exactly what I'm about to say, which is that AI and analytics, we have broken out into different kind of segments, if you will. Augmented analytics, business science, and data science. So let me go back to the slide and kind of explain what that really means. When we talk about augmented analytics, I like to think of this is the stuff in Tableau for Tableau creators and explorers. If you're someone who's built a dashboard in Tableau ever, whether you've built 100 or you've just built one, you're in this bucket of augmented analytics. These are additional things you can do with Tableau beyond just building a dashboard. And that's going to be the ask data, the explain data, and the data stories. Those are the first 3 features on the list. I'm going to jump into them right now, but that's augmented analytics. Think of it like a spectrum. If that's one end of the spectrum, then the other end of the spectrum is your data scientist. This is someone who's building models for a living. This is someone who's doing things in R and Python, so on and so forth. Not really going to cover much about data science, but there are some links in that Tableau Public dashboard. If you are interested in learning how to, like, you know, just getting some assistance with TabPy or R integration or MATLAB or anything like that. Again, that dashboard I showed you with all the links does have some information about that. And in the middle, we have this new bucket, which is called business scientists. Think of it like the spectrum. One end of the spectrum is your Tableau creator and augmented analytics. The other end of the spectrum is your data scientist. In the middle is your business scientist. Your business scientist isn't as skilled as a data scientist, but they're willing to get their hands a little dirty. I'm good with building in Tableau. I'm good with augmented analytics. I don't know much about building models, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to handle the low-hanging fruit. I'm willing to kind of get my feet wet. That's what business science is. That's what it's really meant to represent. So we're going to talk about augmented analytics and business science and some other features. Like I said, I won't get too much into data science, but I want to jump into augmented analytics because that's kind of the one that I'm most passionate about. So instead of, and augmented analytics, again, as of today, covers these three buckets: ask data, explain data, and data stories. So what I want to do is just show you what it really looks like on the kind of the Tableau side, like if we were doing this for real. So I have a Tableau cloud site. I'm going to show you my dashboard, and we're going to look at ask data, explain data, and data stories all in one, because I want to show you how these features work together, as opposed to just talking about them kind of one at a time. We're going to kind of, like I said, do this in a larger kind of, I'm sorry for all of this stuff for you guys in the room, all this kind of digital stuff that's kind of on my screen right now, but I'll try to move it out the way so you can see the dashboard. This is a dashboard that I built, very, very simple. It is literally just showing basically profit ratio by state. This is Superstore data. I've got it broken out into 3 tabs. I got geography. I've got basically an area chart that's going to show by segment. And I've got basically another area chart that's going to show by product. I want to show you, this is me just building something that's a little bit more user-friendly for the context of this conversation. I'm opening up Tableau to show you that what I am literally showing you is Superstore data. All I did was make it pretty. If you open up Tableau and you go to the Superstore Accelerator, yes, we renamed sample workbooks to accelerators. It used to say sample workbook. This is exactly the same thing. This is literally the same thing. I just made it pretty. This is the same sample dashboard that you get with Tableau. I just split it up and made it pretty. So it's the same thing at the end of the day. But what I want to do is use this dashboard to show you all 3 of these things all at the same time. So we've got this dashboard. I really want you to just focus on the map. We've got some bands at the top, bands, big aggressive numbers, big ass numbers. It's after 6 p.m. in the East Coast. I can curse. We've got some bands at the top. We've got a map that's showing profit ratio by state. And that's all that we have right now. There's literally nothing more for me to look at. I'm going to pretend I'm a viewer. I'm not a creator. Someone sent me this link and I got to be able to, let's say I'm responsible for, profitability for sample Superstore data or Cumulus Bank, whichever one we want to go with. And really, I'm more responsible for the West Coast. So even though I've got all this information, I'm going to filter this for just the area that I control. So I've got this filtered now. Again, it's just profit ratio by state. Only thing I'm seeing is that clearly Oregon, Colorado, and Arizona aren't doing well when it comes to profit ratio. They got a negative profit ratio. If I hover over these, you'll see there's tooltips, which basically break down that profit ratio by city. But as of right now, that's contextually all that I have. First thing on the list of underutilized features, it's brand new. It's data stories. Came out in 2022.2, which is like a month ago. What are data stories? Data stories, basically, think of it like quick insight. It's a quick summary. This text up here is just kind of like some, information about data stories, but what you see down here is an actual data story. And what's happening here is I want to show you kind of behind the scenes what's basically giving this kind of the information that it has. Remember, you're looking at the map and all you see on the map is the breakdown by profit ratio with that diverging bar chart. But what I'm doing behind the scenes in Tableau is actually, if we were to go to the map, even though the map is basically only showing profit ratio, on color, what I've done in that example is I took sales and I put that on detail, and I took profit and I put that on detail. Putting it on the detail shelf means it's now part of the worksheet, but I haven't added it to anything. It's not on color, it's not on size, it's not on tooltip, it's not on text. So even though it's part of the worksheet, it hasn't changed the view. But if it's part of the worksheet, a data story can use it. And that's exactly what we've done here. So this data story is summarizing everything Tableau found out about all the measures I have on this map. including profit ratio, profit, and sales. It's going to look through the selection and say, this is basically what I'm seeing. It's like a quick summary, and it's dynamic, it's interactive. If I start changing things, the summary is going to change with it. If we flip this to the South, you're going to see the entire data story is going to rewrite, and now we're talking about basically, you know, what's happening within the South. So you kind of get the idea of what we're going now. I don't know why the map didn't, you know, there we go. So the map went to the South now. But now the data story is basically telling me that Virginia stands out with the highest value of profit. Florida stands out with the highest value of sales. So again, think of it as nothing more than a quick summary of what happened. You as a Tableau creator pick the worksheet. You as a Tableau creator pick the measures. You can have it, as you can see, I've only got one measure in the map, but it's talking about 3 measures. So with a data story, I'm telling you about sales within the South, even though it's not even part of the, you know, the visualization. Data stories can be used with basically any combination of dimensions or measures that you assign to them. And again, all it's doing is giving you a quick insight. It's going to look at basically what's in that worksheet and tell you what it learned. So if you've got data over the course of time, it'll tell you that 2019 was the most profitable year, so on and so forth. But again, think of it like that quick kind of, you know, summary information that you can, you know, basically get out of Tableau. That's what a data story is. And in this context, again, I'm going to pretend, remember, I'm looking at this from the perspective of the West Coast. California stands out as the value with the highest, you know, that stands out with the highest values for both profit and sales, and Montana stands out for the highest value for profit ratio. When I look at profit ratio, I can see that the average profit ratio is 15% across all 11 states in the West Coast, and the distribution is negatively skewed, as the average of 15% is less than the median of 19%. So it's giving me a lot of information. So again, this could help me. And again, the fact that I can learn about sales in the West Coast, even though it wasn't part of the map, this is good. It's giving me more than what I had 5 minutes ago. But if I'm still looking at this, like, I get some more information, but what I'm really focused on is I'm looking at profit ratio, and I'm looking at Colorado. I mean, technically I'm looking at Oregon and Arizona too, but Colorado is the worst. Why is the profit ratio so bad in Colorado? Data stories are great, but it didn't tell me that. That's probably something I really want to know. That's where explain data comes in. So now that we've got our data story, and we can kind of close this out for now, let's focus on Colorado. I'm going to basically click on Colorado, and I'm going to kind of hover here for a second, and hopefully the tooltip plays nice with me. And I'm not a big fan of these tooltips sometimes, okay? At the bottom of the tooltip, and sometimes the tooltip will be at the top, depending on what version that you're at, you see I've got this little light bulb icon, and it's explain data. I'm going to click on explain data. And what explain data does, explain data, as a matter of fact, it even says it if you ever want a kind of quick explanation. When you select a mark in your viz and run explain data, Tableau analyzes the data in the view and in your connected data source. And based on what you selected, the pane's going to show you possible explanations for why the value is what it is. And that's the key. It's going to show you possible explanations for why the value is. The easiest way I like to describe explain data looks for correlation. That's all it does. It just looks for correlation. It takes the mark you selected and it looks basically at all of the fields in the underlying data set, regardless of whether they're used in the worksheet or the dashboard. As long as they're part of the underlying data set, it's going to look through them. So look through them and see if it can find any kind of correlation. Correlation does not equal causation. I can't stress this enough. Correlation is correlation. It does not mean that you're going to get the answer why the value is. It just means that there's a correlation. Tableau's going to look through and say, hey, when the profit ratio for Colorado was really, really low, these other fields also kind of, either they went up at the same time or they went down at the same time, but there seemed to be a correlation. So basically, as profit ratio changed, they changed too. And again, and even in this context, you're going to see that I clicked on Colorado and I clicked on explain data, and now explain data is asking me, because remember, even though profit ratio is what's on the color marks card, like I told you before, I put 2 other measures on the detail shelf. So it's saying, what do you want me to look at? Profit ratio, sum of profit, or sum of sales? Because all 3 of them are technically on this particular worksheet. So let's focus on profit ratio. So it's going to look through basically all of the fields in this underlying data set and see if it can find any fields that had a correlation with the negative profit ratio for Colorado. So as you can see, it found some contributing dimensions and some contributing measures. Again, what it's looking for is correlation. It's up to you as an end user to decide whether the correlation is worthy, whether it is the answer, or whether it's just a coincidence. And I'll show you, because that's basically what ends up happening when you use explain data. It found 4 contributing dimensions. First one on the list is subcategory. I'm going to open this up and show you basically what it found for subcategory. We'll make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Basically, what it's saying is that the distribution for records for subcategory is correlated with the profit ratio, which may explain why the profit ratio is lower for Colorado. This is interesting. Clearly, the blue bars represent Colorado, the gray bars represent everywhere else within the West Coast. Remember, I'm filtered on the West. So clearly, furnishings are doing much better in Colorado than they are, the rest of the West Coast. And paper and labels aren't doing as well, marginally, as some of the other states within the West Coast. Doesn't really tell me why the profit ratio is low, but I might come back to this. I don't know what it is about furnishings that's so popular in Colorado. Maybe that does have an impact on the negative profit ratio. Not useless, but not really an answer either. Maybe, like I said, maybe we'll come back to that. Look at the next one on the list. Order profitable. Here's something that's really going to be shocking. There's a field in this data set that's called order profitable. Either something's profitable or it's unprofitable. Now, this is shocking. A large percentage of the orders in Colorado are unprofitable compared to everywhere else. Well, it's got the highest negative profit ratio. Obviously, if there's a field called profitable and it's true or false, I'm sure there's a whole lot of falses. There's a whole lot of things that are unprofitable. Again, there's a correlation, not really giving me the value here that I'm looking for. And as we go through this, you're going to see there's a lot more of these types of scenarios. Ship mode. This one, again, it's another one of those kind of maybe, the distribution of records for ship mode is correlated with profit ratio, which may explain the lower profit ratio for Colorado. Now, a number of orders for Colorado seem to be getting first class shipment more so than the rest. Now, that could have an impact on profit ratio, but it's not super significant either. So again, this might be something that I come back to. You get the idea here. You're kind of looking through these things to see if you can find something that, is a big contributor, or maybe, like I said, the combination of a few of these would be big. I'm not going to look at ship status because it's similar to ship mode, but I want to look at discount, because when we kind of get to the contributing measure, this one actually might be telling me something. Now, there is a bug. I did tell the people at Tableau today, do not read this first sentence. Colorado has a lower average discount than the other marks. Colorado is the blue dot. Discount is basically what's on the x-axis and profit ratios on the y-axis. Colorado has the highest discount of all the other marks. And that's actually an interesting piece of information. The blue dot represents Colorado. If you look at this scatter plot, profit ratio on your y-axis, average discount on your x-axis, Colorado has an average discount of more than 30%. That is probably why the profit ratio is so low for Colorado. Matter of fact, look at this scatter plot. There's 2 other marks here that also have a high average discount. Looks like Arizona and Oregon. And again, if I just push this out the way, what are the other 2 ones that are orange? Clearly, the discount is what's having the biggest impact on the negative profit ratio for everything that you see in orange. This was an example where explained data found a reason that genuinely might be the thing. So again, explained data is not always going to find the thing. Explained data is really a feature that, like I said, you kind of as a user have to kind of look to see if it's adding value. It depends on your data set, depends on kind of what's being looked at. But this is just another example where with data stories and explained data, remember what we started with. At the end of the day, we just figured out that the discount is basically what's causing the negative profit ratio for Colorado. The discount's just much higher in Colorado than everywhere else. But we started with just a map. We wouldn't have learned that looking at this map. And the same thing with basically how sales are doing in some of these places as well. Again, we wouldn't have learned that by of sales and profit because that's part of the data story. So as you can see, with just explained data and data stories, we're learning more about this data than what's in the viz. And that's kind of what I want to hint at. Because remember, we're not done. Okay, the average discount is what's causing the negative profit ratio. That's great. But what am I going to do about that? That's just kind of, I got one last piece of the puzzle to solve. Now I'm going to show you the most powerful one of them all, and that's Ask Data. Ask Data can be embedded in the dashboard or it can be run separately. I embedded it in the dashboard. Now, I like to think of Ask Data as ad hoc analytics on the fly. Remember, I'm just a viewer. At the end of the day, I don't have a creator license, and I didn't build this dashboard. But with Ask Data, I can basically ask questions of the same data set that's being used in this dashboard to maybe answer questions that the dashboard didn't give me answers to. Let's start with a question it did give me the answer to. I'm going to say, what is the profit ratio of Colorado? I already know the answer to this, but let's just make sure it's right. I'm going to click on submit. Now remember, this is a very, very specific question, and you can look and see what it did if you're ever creating anything in Tableau. As I was typing, it automatically kind of started to assign the measure and the dimension. So it basically said, okay, you want to see profit ratio filtered to the state of Colorado. So it's kind of dynamic in that capacity, but it's a very specific question. What is the profit ratio of Colorado? I'm going to click submit. It's going to give me an answer. Profit ratio is negative 20.3%. Let's make sure that's right. I'm going to hover over Colorado, and as you can see, yeah, negative 20.3%. I'll even click on it just so you can see. Yep, negative. So that's giving me the right answer, but I already knew that. How about something I didn't know? Now that I know that that's the profit ratio for Colorado, and I know that discounts having a huge impact on that, let's go back to that original, when we were looking through some of those other explained data. I want to see this by subcategory. Now it's going to kind of start to add to what I'm typing. Now it's profit ratio by subcategory filtered for the state of Colorado. It's broken this out into a bar chart. And now I can see basically which subcategories are the ones that are attributing to that negative profit ratio. So I can see right up to, start from the bottom. Bookcases, machines, binders, tables, those are some big negative profit ratios. Let's focus on them. I'm going to hold control. I'm going to click bookcases. I'm going to click binders. I'm going to click tables. I'm gonna click all 4 of these because these guys got big negative profit ratios, and I'm gonna say keep only. It's keeping all of this, and as I'm doing this, if you keep an eye on the top, now it added another filter. It says keep 4 values from subcategory. So now I've got this just the 4 subcategories with the highest negative profit ratio. Again, this is great, but this isn't really enough. I'm going to change this to a text table, and now I can see exactly what those profit ratios are. And now I'm going to start building this out even further. It's by subcategory. Okay. What if I want to see this by product too? Let's put that in there as well. I'm going to say click submit. And now I can see which subcategories and which products are the ones now that are contributing to that negative profit ratio in Colorado. Haven't left Colorado yet. This is all basic ASK data. ASK data came out in 2019.3. In 2021.2, we added ASK data phrase builder. It's annoying to have to keep typing these things out, especially when I'm kind of, maybe I want to ask a full question. Maybe I just want to kind of just add a field. And now I can. I'm just going to, instead of me typing this out, we've got product name in there. Let's add customer name in there, and I'm going to say add field, and let's keep this going. I'm going to add, let's bring back state, because even though it's filtered on Colorado, I want to make sure anyone looking at this can kind of see what's happening. Now, and you know what? Let's add probably the most important thing on the list. Let's add discount, not the sum, the average discount. So now I've got, for the state of Colorado, a list of subcategories, products, and customers. And I can see that the average discount is almost 70% for everything with the exception of tables, which is around 50%. And I can see what the profit ratio is. I didn't have any of that in that map. Started with a map that was just breaking profit ratio out on color. Again, I'm a viewer. I have the cheapest Tableau license, and I'm answering questions that this dashboard never actually was even intended to answer. Now, let's say that this is great, and I can share this with folks. I can literally kind of add some people who are on this Tableau server, but I'm going to have to monitor this. I'm going to have to monitor this like once a week, once a month, once a quarter. I'm going to pin this as a recommended visualization, and I'm going to give this a appropriate name. Don't judge me. I don't know what an appropriate name right now would be, so I'm just going to say unprofitable. I don't know, and I can't even spell. Unprofitable stuff in Colorado. That just shows you when it's after 6 o'clock and you're like, yeah, this shows you naming conventions. Yeah, I'm one of those guys. Yeah, who called it unprofitable stuff? Yeah, that was me. It was late. I did that. So we'll click save. And now I saved that as a recommended visualization because I know I'm going to have to do this again. And the next time I come in and ask data, I don't want to have to put all those fields in there again. And I didn't have to kind of close this out. So again, the next time, whether it's next week, next month, next quarter, I've now pinned this as a recommended visualization. You'll notice my unprofitable stuff in Colorado. If I just click on it, it's going to bring me back to exactly where we were, when I built this thing out. This is the power of vast data. I'm not a soapbox kind of guy. Explain data, it's really, really good to be tied to your underlying data set, how valuable it really is, if I'm being transparent and honest. Data stories, again, it's a quick way to get a summary. I can't sit there and deny that. It's a quick summary. It really is nice. But ask data. Taylor, I wish we had Ask Data when I was working at Wells Fargo. And I don't mind saying that on the recorded line, because this is one of those features that we would build more than one version of the truth. You know, and we're all big about the idea of creating a single source of truth. Why are there 6 versions of this dashboard? We got 6 different lines of business who need to see 6 different lenses, 6 different perspectives of the same data. This happens all the time. If I had Asked Data, I could have given these folks, I could have built data lenses like this for those different lines of business, all still using one single source of data. The beauty of Ask Data lenses, and that's kind of what's happening behind the scenes here, an Ask Data lens is like a view on top of a table in SQL. There's only one table. You can have a bunch of different views, filtered, queried versions of that table, but there's still only one table. With Ask Data, it's the same thing. There's only one data source. You can have a bunch of Ask Data lenses, and the data lenses can have synonyms. If you notice in Ask Data, you can basically hover over things to kind of see a little breakdown of the values. If it's got a calculation, you can see what the calculation is. Remember, I'm a viewer. I'm not a creator or an explorer, and I'm getting all of this stuff. But again, as a creator, you have the ability to define what the viewer sees and doesn't see. You as a creator can say, I'm going to create an Ask Data lens, and I'm going to give them 5 fields because I only trust them with 5 fields. They don't need to be looking at those other fields. You can do that. You can control the ecosystem, and they can all have their own different Ask Data lens where they can ask their own questions, or you can store recommended visualizations and do it for them. But what I'm saying is this is a way to not have to create multiple dashboards, multiple versions of the truth. And Ask Data to me is the feature that, you know, of all the augmented analytics feature, and product people, I apologize if you're watching a recording of this, but I am a fan of Ask Data. And to me, Ask Data is the strongest of the 3. Now, again, the beauty of this is all of these features are part of augmented analytics, which are all part of Tableau, meaning that these are not add-ons. We're going to kind of go through this real quick, and then I'll kind of pause for questions. But again, data stories 2022.2. You can kind of get an idea, gives you quick insight, you know, and it automatically adjusts depending on kind of what you're, you know, is being looked at. Again, I want to always be transparent. 2022.2. Only because of the fact that it's the newest feature, Tableau Cloud only for now. It's coming. For those of you on-prem installations, don't look at me like that. It's coming. All right. And usually I wouldn't make promises like, you know, anything can change and all that stuff. But no, it is coming in a future release for on-prem folks. Again, but for Tableau Cloud right now, it just came out like a month and a half ago. So it's a brand new feature, but it is coming for on-prem. But data stories came out in 2022.2. So again, if you're on Tableau Cloud, you already have access to it now. If you're on-prem, you're going to have access to it very soon. And this is kind of, you know, just showing you what it looks like, you know, animated GIF, how it works behind the scenes. Data story, pick a worksheet, pick which dimensions and measures are in that worksheet, and then you can pick the level of like, I think the word is verbosity, you know, whether you want to be very descriptive about what happened or kind of, you know, a little bit. You can choose some of the formatting, make sure, you know, it says things are currency and things are, you know, percentages. Obviously, you don't want it to say the sum of sales or the average discount. So you can swap out synonyms. So it's like, it's not going to say sum of sales. It's going to be like total, you know, profitability for whatever. You have a lot of flexibility with data stories. So again, 2022.2, really good feature that just came out. Explain data. Explain data has been around since 2019.3. I hope nobody's still on the 2019 version. I hope. Yeah. They can't be on that old of a version. If you're a virtual, and that goes for you too. If you're on a version of 2019 point whatever, talk to your company. That's inexcusable. But that's another story for another day. But Tableau Explain Data came out in 2019.3. Again, what I showed is basically what you saw. The big takeaway is that in 2021.2, it was made available for viewers. In the beginning, Ask Data and Explain Data were only available for creators and explorers. But as of 2021.2, both of them are available for viewers, which basically means they're both available for everybody. Doesn't matter what license you have, you can take advantage of Explain Data. And we saw some examples of kind of Explain Data in action. Ask Data, been around since 2019.1, been around for a long time. Ask Data 1.0 was cool. Ask Data 2.0 was better. And again, Ask Data 1.0 was 2019.1. I believe 2.0 was again the same time with viewers. I want to say it's around that 2021.2 version. And then the most recent one, Ask Data Phrase Builder and Phrase Recommendations, came in 2022.1. Let me pause for a second. Rashid, tip number 2. All these versions sound confusing to people who are new to Tableau. If you don't know what version of Tableau you're on, at any point, open up Tableau Desktop, go to the Help section, go to About Tableau. This will tell you what version you're on. We used to have versions that were like 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 9.19, so on and so forth. I think we got to 10.5. And then it went to the year quarter. That's all it is now. It's a year and a quarter of the release. This is just more of an FYI. Every version, basically, when it comes to new features, that's going to be the thing. Year quarter, 2022.2, second quarter of 2022, 2022.3, third quarter of 2022. Everything after the second number. See how I have this right here, 22.2, 0.0, 0.1.5. All of that is bug fixes and maintenance releases. Features don't come in those other numbers. There's always bug fixes and there's always maintenance releases. But if you're ever concerned about features, features come in the quarterly release. So it's the year and the quarter of basically the release. And on server. Thank you, Jeremy, for pointing that out. Yes, good point. So this is how you can figure out your version of Tableau on desktop. On server, basically all you got to do, and forgive me for the folks in the room, I'm just moving stuff around so we can see what's happening here. If you go up to basically your server, I believe it's in the question mark. Click on the question mark in the top right, go to About Tableau Online. If you're on Tableau Server, it'll say About Tableau Server, and this will tell you the version of Tableau Server that you're on, or Tableau Cloud. And again, for those of you who are virtually, what Jeremy was saying is that it's very important that your Tableau Desktop and your Tableau Server versions are, I don't want to say it's backwards compatible, but it's not forwards compatible. Yes, tightly coupled. That's a good way of saying it. In a best case scenario, the version of Tableau Server that you're running is the same version of Tableau Desktop. Best case scenario. Now, even when IT teams roll out new Tableau servers, if the IT team rolled out Tableau Server 2022.3 today, that's fine because I can still use an older version of Desktop and publish to it. That's absolutely fine. We encourage that. IT, that way they can test out the new server, make sure nothing's wrong. That's fine. It's the other way that causes problems. You do not want to download the newest version of Tableau Desktop. I just downloaded Tableau 2022.3, and you're still on Tableau Server 22.2. That is going to cause problems. What will happen if you try to use Tableau 2022.3 Desktop? It's going to strip out any new features that you try to use on publish. And it won't tell you that until you publish. So it could get weird, meaning you use all these new features in the newest release of desktop, you click publish, you went to the server and it looks strange and ridiculous and something's wrong here. You might get an error message, you might get something where a whole section of the screen just disappeared, all sorts of wonkiness. Stay away from that. Either use an older version of desktop than what's on server or use the same version of desktop as what's on server. Tableau Rashid tip number 2. With that, I want to be conscious of time because I want to make sure we get to some of this stuff. I know I get to all of it, but long story short, that's Ask Data. And with that, I can do the next one quickly, but I want to pause. There's a bunch of questions in the chat, I think. So I'm going to look at you guys in the room to help me out with that. So there's a few more features to get to, but by all means, shoot them out questions. Anybody's got questions on augmented analytics?
Yeah, we have one question, a couple of questions from the chat. Is Ask Data and Explain Data, are those going to be available on Tableau Public?
If I'm being honest, not for a while. I can't tell you that they won't be, but I don't believe there's anything currently in the pipeline to add them because they're really server specific. It's kind of like, even when you talk about extensions, there are extensions that are available on Tableau Public, but there are more that are not. So it could happen one day, but I'm not aware of anything in the near future. Anything else? Anybody in the room? Okay. Well, we're getting there. We only got through 3. We got 7 more things on the list. The people in the room are getting impatient. All right. So the good news is the next 2 are really, really easy, and that's metrics and collections. Again, we're talking about underutilized features. You might know about some of these features, you might not. This is more of a, just in case you didn't know, here's what they are and here's what they do. Metrics came in 2020.2, so most of you probably have that or a future version. Metrics really, it's kind of like what the slide says. You monitor KPIs for your business from anywhere, kind of like quick KPIs on the fly. a metric isn't really for a Tableau creator. It's really something that a viewer or an explorer can kind of create off of a dashboard. And let me show you basically how that works. So when we talk about metrics, what we're talking about, let me kind of see if I can bring up the right Tableau server. So I'll go back to my Cumulus Bank and we'll go to metrics. These are kind of what metrics look like. And just so you know, I've got some pre-created ones, but how do you create a metric? Basically, you take a dashboard, and if you ever notice, it's actually kind of in the end user menu. I believe it's under watch. And again, I know your toolbar might be different if you're on a different version of Tableau, but the way I like to think of metrics, this is a dashboard. It's just got some, basically I've got this being dynamic where I can swap out the measures that are even in the list, but I've got some measures and I can basically, you know, kind of add more measures if I wanted to and so on and so forth. I built this dashboard just for the purposes of showing you how metrics basically work. Let's say again, I'm primarily responsible for the West. So I filter this dashboard with this, you know, these line charts showing me sales and count of orders and stuff for, you know, over time for the West. Now, this is something where maybe I need to look at these kind of metrics on a somewhat reoccurring basis. What I can do is I can create what's called a metric. And I'm going to go up to watch to show you. It's right here under watch. I click on metrics. And what it's going to tell me is that these are the metrics that have already been created off this dashboard. If I want to create one, click on create. Basically, it's telling me I've got to select, you know, with a metric, I believe you have to select a measure. And I believe it's a continuous measure. I think you can't even do a discrete measure. You have to select a continuous measure. So what that means is right now, remember what I did. I filtered this to just the West. Matter of fact, I'm going to filter this on a segment. I'm going to say the West and consumer is what I'm really, really concerned about. And now I'm going to click on the value for sales. And now that I've done that, I can create a metric. And you see that's what's happened up to the right. And I'll name this, something that's appropriate. So we'll say this is consumer sales, just say for the West. Oh, I should have did that, right? Yeah, it's actually a good point. Next one, I got you. All right. So basically, I've given it an appropriate name. I can put a description. I can define what the date range is going to be. We'll leave it last 12 months, but you've got some options there. And I'll leave the comparison type as historical just for time purposes. And I'll basically create this metric. Now, what's the purpose of doing this? Now that I've created this metric, I really don't have to go back to this dashboard because now I have a metric that I can kind of look at on the fly, meaning that now I can track consumer sales for the West independently. Now I don't technically have to, I can create a bunch of these. And especially if you're on like Tableau Mobile or something of that nature, I can favorite these things. This is a way where I can pick out the piece of the dashboard that's important to me so that I don't have to keep going back to the dashboard. Now, mind you, this kept my filter. This really is consumer sales for the West. This is, because remember, this started as just being a line chart for just sales. I'm the one that filtered the consumer. I'm the one that filtered it to the West. So this gives you an idea, but I really think metrics kind of tie in nicely to the other thing that we're going to talk about, which is collections. To basically say, now that I've created this metric, yeah, I could favorite it, and that's an option, and I'll even do that. And we'll say I'll click on a little favorite icon for maybe these two metrics, but this can get a little, this is what your favorites look like after a while. You've got favorites all over the place. You're favoriting everything. Wouldn't it be nice if I can group stuff together? Like I can put all of my metrics dedicated to X in one bucket, and I can put my dashboard dedicated to Y in another bucket. That's what collections are. With collections, and you'll notice I've got one created already, but I'll do another one. Let's say these two metrics, this dashboard and this demo thing. I want to put all these things together, and I want to kind of keep track of that separately. And we're going to call this, Rashid's stuff. Again, because with my great naming conventions, I know you guys love them. And we'll say new collection. I'm sorry. So we'll do that there. And now the beauty of collections is not only do I have a way to kind of segment things together now in a way where, I'm sorry, I think I did that twice. Hopefully that worked. Okay, got two collections, Rashid Minott collection and Rashid stuff. Now I've got this collection and, I didn't add anything to it. So sorry about that. That was me. Let's try that again. Pick my two metrics. We'll pick this dashboard and we'll pick this guy over here. And we will add to collections and we will say add to Rashid stuff. So now that we've done that, let's try that again. Now we go to Rashid stuff, and now Rashid stuff, think of it like a subfolder. Now I've got a way to kind of put content in buckets. And the beauty of collections is that they can be private or they can be shared. And this is the best part. If I share this collection with Jeremy right now, he might open up the collection and only see two things, I see 4 things. Why does he only see 2? Because he only had permissions to see the 2. Permissions are inherited. They cascade down. Collections have no permission. Whatever he had access to before is exactly what he has access to now. The fact that I put it in the collection is irrelevant. No one will ever see something in your collection that they're not supposed to. And if they don't have access to anything in your collection, they won't see anything. Meaning the permissions, whether at the project level, the workbook level, whatever you're doing within your company, collections have no influence on that whatsoever. Just a way to create groupings, and this is really, really good. Like I said, if you're someone who's like a viewer or an explorer and you're charged with monitoring dashboards all over the place. If you ever worked on a server where there's multiple sites, people who work at banks, I got dashboards for commercial banking, I got dashboards for lending, I got dashboards for HR, insurance. I got to keep an eye on all this stuff. Now you got a way to group all these things together in a way that's suitable for you. You can also create something for the larger team, or maybe you create your own collection. Beauty is collections can be shared, they can be private, but they give you the ability to group things together in ways that favorites just group everything. It's just, and that's what I mean. Your favorites can get kind of cluttered after a while, where collections let you kind of get it a nice, clean kind of, delineation. So those are metrics. Go ahead. Oh, good question. I think it's site level. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is site level. The question is that, for companies that have multiple servers, yeah, it's got to be site level. Yeah, it's got to be site. Yeah, you can't cross it. Yeah. I'm sorry for you folks on virtually. The question was whether or not collections. Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought. Collections can cross sites, and no, the answer it is specific. Just site level, can't cross over multiple sites on the server. But at a high level, that is metrics and collections. I'm going to pause again for any online questions or any in the room. Metrics, collections, ask data, explain data, data stories. First 5 on the list. All of these things come with Tableau. Costs nothing more. Either you have them now or you're going to have them in a version when your company upgrades to a newer version. But again, they're all built into the product, no additional cost. This is just more of an FYI of kind of how they work. We're going to switch over to the paid stuff, which make some grumble, but at least you'll see it. For folks who've never seen some of this stuff, that's why I say sometimes it's good just to see it. Like, oh, okay, I've seen it now, that kind of a thing. Yes, mostly. Explain data, you can. Yes, ask and explain data, I know you can. Data storage is so new, I'm just not sure yet. Collections, you can. Okay. And collections and metrics, I can't think of off the top of my head. Might not be able to. Okay. For the folks virtually, looks like you can generally disable everything on the server level. Maybe a few exceptions, but I think you can, definitely for the augmented analytics. Good question, though. Any virtual questions? Anybody? Okay. All right. So with that, get your grumbling ready, because now we're moving over to the stuff. Yeah. The beauty is none of you are in my patch, so whether you buy it or not, I'm just going to show you what it does. The data management add-on. The data management add-on is an add-on for Tableau. It comes with 4 features. They're literally, like I said, we already got to 5. I'm going to show you the next 4, and they're all part of the data management add-on. There's not like you can't get these things independently. They're all part of the data management add-on package. With the data management add-on, I'm going to show you what the 4 features are. The first one out the gate is Prep Conductor. Now, for those of you who use Prep, and let me just open up Tableau Prep just so we can all get on the same page when it comes to Prep. Prep, basically, we like to kind of say, for any kind of light ETL work, data cleanup, things of that nature. If you never used Tableau Prep Builder before, it really is good for that. You can join your data, you can clean your data, you can do aggregations, you can do all of this stuff, build out your data model, and then basically run that. And the reason I say it's good to do these types of things in Prep, always, and Rashid, tip number 3, take the burden off of your dashboard. If your dashboard is performing slow, if your dashboard is lethargic, your dashboard takes a lot of time to load, 90% of the time, your dashboard's probably doing a little bit too much. Remember, Tableau has to render your dashboard. Tableau has to kind of populate all of the marks that's going to be on the screen. And then if you're building your data model in Tableau, Tableau's running the query, even if it's an extract. It's a lot to ask Tableau to do. When you do things in Prep, you're offloading some of that burden. all of that data modeling, building calculated fields, you name it. All of that can be done in prep. If you do it in prep, one less thing for Tableau to do. Tableau can now be a little bit faster at doing everything else. So that's just one kind of reason why you'd want to use Prep Builder in the first place. I'm going to open up one of these sample flows. We're not going to go through Prep Builder. Prep Builder is free, just so you know, with a creator license. You already have access to it. Some of you work at companies where they don't let you use it. I cannot do anything about that. Sorry. But you got it with the creator license, so know that it is something that's there if they ever let you use it. But basically with prep, this is an example of a prep flow. And in this example, if we follow this thing from left to right, we've got 4 different data sources. These could be 4 spreadsheets. These could be 4 tables from 4 different databases. Rashid, tip number 3, multi-database joins. Do them in prep. Don't do multi-database joins in Tableau if you don't have to. If you have to, you have to. But that's another one of those performance burdening impacts. But again, these could be 4. You could have a spreadsheet, a SQL database, a Snowflake database, and or Amazon Redshift database, and 4 tables from each. That's what each of these could be. We're bringing in this data. We're doing some cleanup when this, we're moving some nulls, fixing some data types, renaming states. And I'll click on this, just kind of show you exactly, if you click on something, what you would see. Kind of a little preview of the fields, a little breakout here and there. Forgive me, this is kind of slow. I've got a lot of things open right now, so not sure, I'm not going to wait for all this stuff to load. But this is an example of a prep flow where you would take all of these things, and after you ran some cleanup steps, you join them all together. This is basically a union. So now all 4 of these things are now union as one thing. And then we're now joining that to this returns table, which could have been from something else. After we do a clean step, and then we do another join and another clean. And then we create basically, and this is prep flows creating 2 different outputs, meaning this is creating basically, let's think of it like a hyper output for Tableau for dashboard number 1. And then it's actually doing an aggregation here. So this might be the detailed view. And then we aggregate up some data to the summary view, bring in some more data, from somewhere else in another join, and then create another, export, if you will. This prep flow would literally have 2 exported tables. 2 different things came out of this one prep flow. This is an example of Prep Builder. Why am I showing you all this about Prep Builder? Because as great as all this is, when the time comes to run this thing, you literally go up here and you click run. Like, you run your flows. And when the data changes tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter, you open this again and you click run again. You run this manually every single time. That's how Prep Builder works. No way to automate the process of running these prep flows. That's what Prep Conductor is. Don't. All right, go ahead. We got a question in the room. I know. But there's, in purposes of this conversation, Jeremy will talk. Again, we're not talking about free stuff here at Tableau. For the virtual folks, we've got some jokesters in the room. But Prep Builder, like I said, lets you do all of this stuff, and then you manually run the flows. Prep Conductor basically lets you schedule the flow. So instead of having to do this manually every single time, what you could do, and we'll go back to one of my examples here with Prep Conductor, we've got that same Prep Superstore prep flow. And this is kind of, showing you a little screenshot. This is basically if I had published this prep flow. This is Prep Conductor. This is literally Prep Conductor. Remember, I said this prep flow would create 2 different outputs. What Prep Conductor does allows you to basically schedule the flow, meaning instead of me having to run this thing manually every single, let's say, whatever it happens to be, whether I'm running it, once manually running, whenever I come in and click the manual run flow thing, instead of me having to do this, I can set this on a schedule. I want this thing to run every weekday at 2 a.m. And as you can see, I can set this thing to automatically include all the output steps. Remember, this one had 2 output steps, or we can have, separate things happen for each of these steps. So the idea here is with Prep Conductor, I can schedule out the prep flows to run on a schedule, if you will. But what also came a little bit later, and I'll call out the version, was linked tasks. Instead of me running one prep flow at 2 a.m. and then running my next prep flow at, I don't know, whenever that first one finishes, maybe 2:30 a.m. or something like that, you don't have to do that anymore. A linked task will basically run the next prep flow after the previous one finishes. So you pick prep flow number 1, it'll run that first. And then basically after that, you say, okay, as soon as that one's done, I want you to run another prep flow. So basically they'll just run concurrently, one after the other. And you can even add kind of steps in case something goes wrong. If the first prep flow fails, send me an email, stop the rest of this. Or if the first prep flow fails, keep going. send me an email, but don't stop the rest of these flows from going. So as you can see, you've got some options when it comes to Prep Conductor. But Prep Conductor, for the most part, is basically allowing you to schedule your prep flows via, like I said, in some kind of automated basis, whether you're doing the link task or whether you're just setting the schedule. It really is an add-on for Prep Builder. The idea to be able to automate the process of scheduling out the prep flows. In a nutshell, that's Prep Conductor. There's other parts of Prep Conductor. Like I said, the links have much more information. I'm trying to keep this short. I don't want to keep you guys super long. So, we'll do like the abbreviated version of some of this stuff. But in a nutshell, that's what Prep Conductor is. So if that's Prep Conductor, that's the first of the 4 on the list. The next, and again, we talked about the link prep flows. Tableau Catalog. The best way to describe Tableau Catalog is to show, and this is all part of data management. This is all part of the same add-on. I'm going to show you Tableau Catalog from the perspective of how you would actually use it. Tableau Catalog, and I'm switching databases right now, gives you basically the ability to do a few things, but to me, lineage is probably the most important one. I'm looking at something called external assets, and this is showing me basically what external assets are being used on this particular Tableau site. I'm going to focus on that first one, Superstore World. Now, this is kind of in a nutshell, and again, there's a lot of aspects of catalog. I'm just covering one aspect for now. With Tableau Catalog, we have this thing on the right called lineage. Right now, I am looking at Superstore World, which is a Microsoft SQL Server database. I can see what the host name is, and I can see which tables are currently in this database. If you look at lineage, I can see cascading down what's happening with this particular database. I can see it has 11 tables used in 6 virtual connections. We'll talk about virtual connections next, so don't worry about that. 23 virtual connection tables, 7 prep flows, 24 data sources, 133 workbooks are using this data source, 665 sheets, dashboards, metrics, owners, the whole 9. So I can see exactly the impact of this one data source throughout this entire Tableau site. And as you can see, we've got some icons here. I can see that this is what's called a certified data source. As a Tableau admin, you can go in and certify data sources. You can go in and be like, this is the data source that we recognize, that we approve. All that other stuff is what you guys are uploading on your own. So you can trust us with the green checkbox. Otherwise, you're using something that we have embedded yet. So that's the whole idea of what a certified data source would be. As you can see, I can see that some of these tables have the green check, some of them don't. So I can see exactly which tables have gotten that certification. I've got some yellow exclamation points. You can add what are called data quality warnings. I can see on this order fact table, Clara Wu has added a message saying the customer ID is having a data quality issue. Again, the beauty of these kind of alerts is that they cascade down. I'm going to show you that even though I'm looking at this literally at the actual database level, we're going to go all the way into a workbook and the dashboard and show you that these same alerts cascade all the way down to a viewer. So the fact that, if I'm using these particular data sources to build dashboards, I can see that some of these things, have some comments around them. I can see that for the dim table here, the region field is going to be renamed tomorrow on 8/25/20. So it's under maintenance right now. And I can even see there's under maintenance for the actual database itself. And we've got a message around here that this table will be undergoing maintenance after hours. So again, it's a way of kind of communicating out some Tableau, I shouldn't say Tableau, some site admin or perhaps server admin or database admin type of information, in a way that can cascade down to viewers. Now, the real power of lineage is, let's look at that alert on the order dim table. Under this, it says that the region field will be renamed on 8/25. Let's look at the order dim table. I'm going to click on it. Now that I've clicked on it, this is now reorganized. Now I can see from the order dim table's perspective, how many data sources, how many workbooks, so on and so forth. I can see that this is the region field that he's talking about. 2 data quality warnings. One of them is the region field is going to be renamed. I can see the upstream warning came down with it. The one at the Superstore World label, how that database is under maintenance right now. If I select region, which is the field that's about to be renamed, how many dashboards are going to be impacted by that renaming? Just gonna put a little check here. Look at the right. What happened is lineage now filtered to show me which of these things are impacted by this particular field. I can see that even though there are 127 dashboards using this table, only 89 of them actually are using the region field. So again, and not only that, I can see that there's 45 of 62 owners that would be impacted by this rename. I'm gonna click on owners, and it's gonna keep that filter. Notice that it's still filtered on region. It's literally just showing me 45. It's not showing me the whole 62. I could send a message to all these folks right now. And And I think there was a way. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back out again. Click. Okay, yeah. I could literally just say select all, and I can just say send email, and I can tell all these folks, guys, the region feels going to be renamed tomorrow. You might want to update your dashboards accordingly. I'm doing all this from data catalog, from Lineage. This is just one aspect of what Lineage can do. Lineage can, and this is not my area of expertise, but it can connect with enterprise data catalogs, Informatica, Calibra, the list goes on and on. I say all this to say, this is again part of the data management add-on. If this interests you, talk to your Tableau account team at your companies. Tell them to give you a demo of the data management add-on. I can't get into all of the different characteristics of what Tableau catalog can do, but this is just one. The idea, and again, let me kind of not lose sight of that. I'm gonna, remember we were filtered on region. I'm gonna click on dashboards. I'm gonna pick one of these dashboards at random. These are the dashboards that are gonna be impacted by that region name change. Let's go with map them. Hey, it's a demo site. That's the beauty of it. Not my site. Yeah, I would have said stuff. But this is what it would look like for an end user. This is that dashboard. Notice that if I'm the end user looking at this dashboard, the first thing that came up was important data quality warnings affect this view. Open the data details page, and I'm going to get a lot of that same information of what we had before. I can see those 4 data quality warnings, including the one that the region feels going to be renamed. So again, even at a viewer level, I have access to information, kind of like what we saw before. I can see which fields are being used. If there's calculations, I can see kind of like the calculation behind it, so on and so forth. It's just a powerful way of getting a lot of this information in front of the right folks. So Tableau catalog, part 2 of the data management add-on. I'm going to start moving faster because there's people in the room. I know that you guys are probably getting antsy. I just want to show you virtual connections, and that's really the last one on the list. I'll give you a little quick preview of business science, but virtual connections of the data management add-ons, that's the most powerful. And the beauty is that that's tied to data policies and centralized row-level security anyway. So one more, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. So with that, that's the catalog. We'll go back up a level and we will talk about virtual connections. Now, virtual connections, anyone in the room familiar with virtual connections and hadn't used it yet? Virtual connections or centralized row-level security? Because again, like I said, this is specific to the data management add-on. Hopefully, if you haven't, you'll like this. If you asked anytime in the past, how do we do row-level security in Tableau? You now have what I'm going to call a viable option. Okay. Yes, only on published data sources. That was a question for you folks virtually. That I'll have to find out for you. I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Unless you decouple a project permission. There's levels of permissions that allow you to circumvent some things.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. But the good news is, let me show these guys first, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the details behind the scenes. All right, so if you don't know what a virtual connection is, I'm going to show you a virtual connection right now. I'm going to click new, and I'm going to say virtual connection. The quickest, easiest way to describe a virtual connection, think about virtual, and then again, Tableau catalog. We talked about some of that stuff. Tableau catalog, yes. This one's a biggie, virtual connections. Yes, Jan Brady's not happy about it. I didn't create these slides either. I'm not that old. But easiest way to describe virtual connections without going through the slide is think of it like this. It's a layer that sits in between the database and the workbook. I like to think of the virtual connection as a solution for service accounts. If you've ever used a service account before, the idea with a service account is, let's say me and Jeremy and Darrell, we're all Tableau creators. We all have been given these service account credentials. So we're all sharing these service account credentials for the HR database. That's how we basically build our dashboards. He builds some dashboards, I build some dashboards. We share the service account credentials. It would be a good team. That's a good point. But the idea here is that not only do the database administrators have to share these service account credentials with everybody that needs, access to this data, you got to worry about passwords being reset and all sorts of stuff. And again, the idea with the service account is that me and Jeremy and Darrell, we really need to know which tables in the HR database that we should be using. We get the service account credentials, we get credentials to that database and everything in that database. There's the employee table, there's the employee 01 table, there's the XX1 employee table. Which employee table should I be using? Well, you should know that. Well, how should I know that? You get into these kinds of things. This is the solution. This is the thing that virtual connections is really meant to solve. So I'll give you an example. With a virtual connection, and I'll try to do this as fast as I can. I'm going to just create one real quick, and we'll do one with Postgres. And I've got some sample, login information. So give me a second while I put all this stuff in here. But basically, this would be my service account credentials. I'm going to put these credentials in. And the idea here is that we only have to do this one time. Like I would be the IT person doing this, meaning that I'm not giving these credentials to Jeremy and Rashid and all those folks, because now I don't have to. Now I can simply, and again, this is all sample stuff, so don't worry about this password. And if any of you people are watching the recording of this and you plan on robbing Tableau, unfortunately, this is not going to be the way to do it. So with that, we've now connected, and this is what I mean. I've connected to this particular Postgres SQL database, and there's a bunch of tables over here. Remember, this is a scenario where I'm the IT admin. I know Jeremy and Rashid and Darrell should only really be using the employees table, the orders table, and the invoices table. That's all. I'm going to publish this as a virtual connection. And if I were to do that, what would happen is now when these guys go to basically build out a dashboard, and let me do this on the server side because hopefully it'll be quicker. I won't publish it because I think I've already got one open already. But the idea is that if I were to actually publish this for real with just those three tables, what would happen is if someone were to create a dashboard, let's create an actual workbook. And this would be the same whether I was doing this in desktop or I'm doing it in server. When we connect to data, I got some types of, things I can connect to as far as data sources, or I can connect to Excel, so on and so forth. But in the list, I've also got virtual connections. And now if I were to connect to this virtual connection, I'm trying to remember which one is the one. Yeah, I think it's VCon. Hopefully this will be the right one, because this is what me, Darrell, and Jeremy would do. Notice what I have. Employees, invoices, and orders. That's all I got. Notice I didn't enter any password. I didn't enter any credentials. I'm now a Tableau creator who's already been assigned to a virtual, already been given permission to a virtual connection. So it's already been determined what tables me, Jeremy, and Darrell are allowed to use or should be using. Or really, and remember, I could still do whatever I want to do. I could build joins, I can do relationships. I haven't actually, this isn't limiting me in the types of dashboards that I can build. It's just pre-defining kind of what's available to me. Remember, in the original scenario, I would have entered those server credentials, the entire table scheme, the entire, table scheme. All of the tables in the HR database would have been available to me, and I would have had to consciously choose the right tables to use in all of us would have had to, which means that if I chose employees and he chose employees one, we're already off on the wrong foot. So with virtual connections, like I said, the service account basically is not gonna say no longer needed, but it doesn't need to be shared anymore. Now you can have one service account and a virtual connection be enough for all of your Tableau creators, and it doesn't have to be shared kind of downstream. So that's what a virtual connection is. Once you have a virtual connection, now you have the ability to create what's called the data policy. And the data policy is, in short, centralized row level security. And that's the thing that I want to show you. So with the published virtual connection, now that we've got that, I'm going to basically go into that existing one and I'm going to edit it if I can. Let's see if we can. So this is that same virtual connection. Hopefully, so we continue editing. I think I got to put the password in one more time. So let's do that. And I promise you guys in the room, I'm going to let you out as soon as we're done with this. Okay, so same scenario as before. I've got these three tables. Those are only three tables Jeremy, myself, and Darrell are allowed to use. In addition to the tables, now what I can do is I can create a data policy on one of these tables. Now, it might sound confusing, but like I said, I'll walk you through this so it kind of makes sense. A data policy is basically a way of saying, I want only certain people to have certain access to certain information within the table. So if I go to data policies, we're going to create a new policy, and we'll do it on orders. And why did that zoom in? So I'm going to take orders. I'm just going to drag it out here. Maybe we'll try that again. I'll say create new policy. I'm sorry. All right, so do that. Take orders, drag it out. Well, that is the policy table. So basically what I'm saying is I want to add a policy to the orders table. Now, what I can do is I'm going to basically what this will allow me to do is use any field in the orders table to write the policy. But the field I want to use is not in the orders table. So I'm going to use the employees table and create a mapping. I'm going to add that as an entitlement table. And just like with all mappings, I got to map these two things together. So in the orders table, we have an employee ID. And over here, I believe we have an employee ID in both tables, orders. And so now that I've done that, now that's giving me the ability to use any field in either the orders table or the employees table. Now I can write a policy condition. Policy condition, think of it like a calculated field. I'm going to say the username, we'll use the function, equals me, or the username as a function equals the user ID. And that's a field from the employees table. So what what Jeremy said is that the username function basically is going to pull back the username that's logged in the Tableau server. So what this policy would do is basically going to say either the user equals Rashid Minott, which is me, which would mean I can see everything, or the username that's logged in this Tableau server has to equal the user ID on the employee table, which means those folks can only see data for themselves. So if we do this, I'm going to create this policy and let's click publish. It's called policy number 1. They can only see their own orders. Minott can see everything. They can only see their own orders. I'm an admin, they can see themselves. So that would be the idea here. And we'll close this out. And if we go back to the tables, we should see that now the orders table has a data policy 1. So how does this work in real life? Well, let's publish this. I don't know if I need to publish this again. I think it already did. I was doing this just to be safe. Okay, and now we'll close out because we already have a dashboard that's built. So we're going to go back a level and we're going to look at our dashboard for virtual connections, which I believe is this guy right here. We're going to look at this. We're going to open this up. So at this point, this should, if I'm not mistaken, be a dashboard that's connected to that virtual connection. And now it has that data policy attached to it, which means Rashid Minott is logged into this particular site. This dashboard is currently being accessed by R. Minott. I see 830 orders, 89 customers, 90 shippers. Let's pretend I'm not the one looking at this. I'm going to open a new incognito mode. Going to go into my demo site. Not yet. Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts at Tableau. We'll talk about that one day. Yeah. All right. So if I can remember my fake person's credentials.
Like a sales direct, see everybody's information, but you want your actual sales people to see themselves.
And you don't want to create a separate table like we are doing.
Yes. So that's sort of a condition for Rashid with himself to emulate that director level.
There's some conversation in the room for you guys virtual. But as you can see, I pretended to be someone else, Robert King. Robert King, this is the same link. We did not go to a different dashboard. Robert King sees 72 orders for 45 customers. I see 830 for 89 customers. Remember, we are both literally looking at the same link. This is not a filter on the workbook. This is literally happening at you see what I'm saying? And so remember, the virtual connection is kind of what is connected to the HR database. And then from there, we put the data policy. So any workbooks now created using that virtual connection will use this data policy. So again, this is an example of how virtual connections and data policies work in that what you can do in Tableau today and what you've always been able to do is create user filters, but they're workbook specific, meaning that you'd have to recreate those user filters in every different workbook. Now you got a way of creating something at a higher level, which can then cascade down to all workbooks. This is virtual connections and centralized row level security. I've kept you guys here for like 70 minutes and same with you guys virtually. I'll show a little thing about business science for everyone that wants to hang out, but I want to kind of pause now for all questions. And then at that point, anyone who wants to hang out, we can go through the remaining items or anything else that you want to talk about. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'm going to need you to talk up though, Darrell. I can't even hear you. a virtual connection is to one database, but yeah, you can have multiple virtual connections. Yeah. And the question was, can a virtual connection be for more than one database? Yeah, yeah, and again, I'm not sure what the question was, but virtual connections, again, let me be clear here. The data management add-on contains 4 things: Tableau catalog, Tableau prep conductor, virtual connections, and data policies. So everything I just showed you is the data management add-on. And again, I can't stress this enough. There are an abundance of links on that Tableau public dashboard about all of this stuff. So again, if you want more information about augmented analytics, ask data, explain data, you want more information about metrics and collections, even do a little thing about personal space. It's a nice feature, but it's nothing special. I wanted to, Jeremy's making a joke about how server admins are going to hate me because I showed them all these features. I want everyone in the room and all you folks virtually to just see what these features are. It's all again, whether your company wants to basically, purchase them or learn more about them, it was just more of making sure that someone had shown you what these features are. Because I remember when I was a Tableau creator, some of the stuff I just never saw, like if I'm being honest, no one ever showed it to me. So again, like I said, the Tableau public thing, I have a whole bunch of links, and this is all external facing links. You can learn more about catalog, prep conductor, virtual connections, role level security, augmented analytics. Again, I'm not gonna, unless you guys wanna hang out, business science, I'll show you what that is. Again, that is a separate paid add-on. But with that, I think we got one more question on virtually, so go ahead. Yes. Yes, the question was, if anyone in your organization has prep conductor, is it safe to assume that you also have virtual connections? Let me be clear here. Sure. The question was, if someone in your company or your organization has prep conductor, is it safe to assume that you have virtual connections? Let me make this clear. Yeah, we're talking about prep, not prep builder, but prep conductor. The data management add-on contains all 4. There's no version of this story where you could have prep conductor and not the other 3. Now, your companies can strategically limit what you have access to. That is not us. Like if your company, so the company has access to all 4. They may only be letting you use one of the 4, and some of them have legitimate reasons as to why that may be. But basically, the data management does come with all 4. Now, the other thing is versions. Like if you're on a version of Tableau from 2019 or 2020, virtual connections did not come to 2021.4, 4th quarter of last year. If you're on an older version, it's something of the 4th quarter of last year, you don't have it yet. But it is coming whenever you upgrade to that version. But all of your companies can always make a strategic decision about what they are comfortable with you using. Yeah, what they deploy. But it does come with the add-on. The add-on's not like broken out in any other capacity. Any questions in the room? Any remaining questions? Oh, we do? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh. Okay.
Hey, you're doing prep? Awesome. There are other things that do the same, obviously paid, just not that. So just a thought, I'm not even gonna name names. Everyone in the room either know that or can ask later. Starts with an A. Well, that's an example. That's an example. Yeah, there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the second part of my statement. I have within my team people that do have licenses of that, but they cannot use it for everything. They're not allowed to just let me create a flow for whatever. What I do is I create a.
We have some questions in the room for you folks virtually.
That you push into an extract every whenever. And so even if it's, every 2 or daily, then it's similar.
No, and I'll be transparent, guys, because I mean, let me tell you something. We next month, the Charlotte Tableau user group is going to be doing a session with Alteryx. Like we can talk about other companies. Like it's not like a bad thing. Like we encourage you to use tools like Alteryx. I like to think of Tableau Prep as light ETL work. Remember, it comes with Tableau. There's no additional cost. And I would never tell you that it's going to be as powerful as some other actual ETL dedicated tools. But again, it's meant to be kind of that light kind of cleanup, data cleanup, a little bit of prep work. Again, I look at it, if nothing else, sometimes prep can just take the burden off Tableau server. I can't tell you how many times I've seen in Tableau a very complex data model on top of a very complex dashboard that takes 4 minutes to load. And it's like, yeah, you got a lot going on here, something's got to give. So, there are use cases where prep could be, a kind of a good use case and might not be. But I hear what you're saying, Lauren.
It's just a note.
I got you.
So, but yeah, so software is one side, but again, you can write custom SQL. A lot of people, if you are not that person, fine, I get it. By default, Tableau does a great job. It optimizes excellent. But custom SQL is very powerful if you know how to use it.
Oh, I hear you. No, that's a good point. Okay, we are for us on the East Coast, we're at 7:23. I want to kind of, anyone who wants to hang out, does anyone want to see business science? Anyone virtually want to see business science? Okay, all right. So I'll stay and hang out and show you business science. Okay. Okay, all right. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out. There were 10 things on the list. Any questions about the first 9? Remember, Augmented Analytics covered the first 3, metrics and collection, 4 and 5, 4 pieces of data management add-on, that's 9. 10th thing is business science. So, all right, business science, elephant in the room. Oh, you want to give me a beer? Wait, what do you say? Wait, I can't, what is it? Oh, yeah. Give me a beer. It's beer time for you guys virtually. Pale ale. Okay. Yeah. Business science. All right, let me be transparent. I'm going to show you a dashboard that actually uses business science, and then we'll kind of go through it. When we talk about business science, again, I'm going to go back up. Thanks. I'm going to go back up to the original slide where we were talking about that spectrum. Augmented analytics being kind of one end, data science being the other end, business science in the middle. When we talk about business science at Tableau, pretty much we're talking about the no-code machine learning. We're talking about Einstein discovery and Tableau. Now, technically, there is more to the bucket of business science, and I'll show you what I mean. So on the Tableau page, and again, all these links, remember, all part of that Tableau public dashboard, so don't worry about that. We talk about business science, they talk about the barriers of business science, so on and so forth. This is not actually even a link that I wanted. Let me go to the link that I want. But I kind of want to just give you an idea of kind of what's being encompassed with business science, just so, because you'll hear it's a term that we do throw out a lot now. So augmented analytics, data science, business science. Click on business science. Now, business science, talk to most of us at Tableau, Einstein discovery and Tableau. We just kind of associate, and you'll hear it the shorthand of it too, which is EDIT. If you ever hear EDIT, Einstein discovery and Tableau, it's what we refer to as business science pretty much. But technically, go ahead. I'll get there. Yeah, I'll get there. Technically, forecasting already existed. This is not new forecasting. We created this bucket called business science. They took forecasting and now put it in that bucket. The same forecasting that's always been in Tableau, just so you know, but it's technically part of business science. And some of the predictive modeling functions, there are some predictive modeling functions, the model quantile, model percentile, table calcs. This stuff is kind of above my pay grade, but I can get you some information on it if you're interested. But for the most part, EDIT, Einstein discovery, is what most of us are talking about when we talk about business science. Let me show you, and then we'll backtrack into kind of what's happening behind the scenes. So give me a second if I can find my right. Oh man, I'm sorry. I got too many browser windows open right now. Okay. So let's try to find the right one. I believe Tableau Online. Let's go back to home. Let's go back to Cumulus, business science. And for anyone who wants to know, Tableau, Rashid, Tableau tip number 3. If you ever want to know, and you see I do this a lot, if you put things basically, I'll show you kind of over here. if you go to the About section, if you ever look, these formatting tips, they're pretty good. And I got to click edit, sorry, so you can see them. See where it says show formatting hints? You can put hyperlinks, you can put bold, you can put a background image. That's all I'm doing here. What I like to do when I create projects, especially, you know, whether they're specific to something like that, sometimes I'll just kind of put all of the pertinent information in that area. So now at the project level, I've got quick links, quick information right there when I need it on that Tableau project. It's more of an FYI about that. But business science, I'll show it to you in action, then I'll backtrack to explain. Have a good one, Oren. All right. Okay, so so this is an example of a dashboard that actually has Einstein Discovery in Tableau embedded in. It's obviously what you see here on the right, and it's this loan default prediction. What this dashboard is doing is it's allowing Einstein to basically predict the default risk based on certain factors. And this is all dynamic. So right now, if I were to actually open up some filters, you're going to see things are going to change based upon my filter selection. So right now, let's say I want to focus on, actually, I don't know if I want to do that. Let's say it's on California right now. Say I want to focus on, and then right now, if you see, it's got a default risk of 57%, and it's telling me the top predictors are startup business equals to yes for 359 rows, and telling me some other stuff, you know, basically that the startup business, and it's telling me how I can improve this. So I was saying if I change my average cash on hand balance, you know, to some of these things, that would basically improve it. So basically it's 57%, and a big contributor to this predictor is the fact that the startup business is yes. What if the startup business was no? I'm going to change that filter to say startup business no. Now it's obviously in real time, just kind of said, okay, based upon your new selection, this is how it would impact it. What if I only want to look at, you know, loans that had a duration over 7 years? Again, as I interact, it's going to basically kind of reevaluate the prediction and so on and so forth. You're seeing it's basically reacting to filter selections. Obviously, it'll react to parameter selections as well. My what if analysis. What if I did change my cash on hand? What if I changed it between, let's say, I don't know, 8 and 10 million as opposed to 0 and 10 million? You know, it'll basically recalculate again. Now, this is basically, in a nutshell, how you would use Einstein Discovery in Tableau in a dashboard. Now, elephant in the room time, and I can't say this any other way. How is this actually happening in Tableau? It's not happening in Tableau. It's called Einstein Discovery in Tableau. Marketing people came up with that name. The name probably should have been Einstein Discovery in Salesforce that can be leveraged in Tableau via an extension. That's just the truth. At the end. Yes, there's no other. Yes. I'm not in charge of pricing. There's questions around pricing right now. You could talk to your Tableau account team when it comes to pricing and things of that nature. But to the question in the room, this Einstein Discovery is a Salesforce product that has existed long before the Tableau acquisition. It's a powerful product. In Salesforce, you load your data, you build the model, you train the model, you deploy the model. Everything in the model is happening in Salesforce. I can show you, but it's all in Salesforce. All of that, and that existed. That's actually part of the CRMA analytics. Think of it this way: Tableau is what we do for, I would say, non-Salesforce data. CRMA analytics is the BI kind of application for Salesforce data. And that's what used to be called Tableau CRM. For a while, they had a lot of name changes. If the majority of your data is in Salesforce, or you use a majority of data in Salesforce, you should learn about CRMA analytics. It's a powerful tool. It includes Einstein Discovery, and it has actionability, meaning that not only can you get the predictions, get the dashboards, but you can do something about it in Salesforce. Meaning, here's my dashboard, here's what's going to happen. I clicked on it, and I did something about it. I closed the opportunity. You can control the entire ecosystem. If you have Salesforce data, CRMA analytics is powerful. Now, if you're not using a large majority of Salesforce data, you're using Tableau. And again, what this is an extension. It's basically porting it so that Tableau can leverage that Einstein Discovery functionality. But make no mistake, all of the heavy lifting is happening in Salesforce. Salesforce is where the model lives. Salesforce is where the model is deployed. In Tableau, you build a dashboard, you bring out the Einstein Discovery extension, and really, if I'm being honest, you're just mapping fields at this point. You're mapping the ID field from wherever your Tableau data source was to the ID field in the model. You're mapping the name field in your data source to what was in the model. You're just mapping. You're saying, use this field in Tableau, for that field in the model. Hence why, as I'm interacting with the dashboard, it's giving me real-time predictions back, meaning based on my parameter change, based on my filter change, the model's already built. It's just kind of feeding in, what was mapped accordingly. But in a nutshell, that's really how Einstein Discovery in Tableau works. It is very much a separate product. It has its own separate pricing structure as well. But it is basically a lot of the heavy lifting happening in Salesforce. Now, again, I gotta be transparent with some of this kind of stuff, and they make me do this kind of thing. The Tableau forward-looking statement. Please do not make investment decisions off of anything that I said today that is not in the product. I haven't said anything yet about things that are not in the product. If it's not in the product, there are no guarantees as to when or if it's coming. Now, there are certain features I'm pretty sure are coming, but do not make any financial decisions or purchasing decisions based on things that aren't in the product. Now, at Tableau conference this year, there was a blurb about Tableau Model Manager, or I think they haven't figured out the name yet. And this is the idea of building the model within the Tableau interface. I can't tell you about it because it hasn't been released yet, but I believe we're hearing rumblings that I think it's going to be Q4 of this year. They talked about it at conference, so it is something that obviously is on the roadmap. I think it's coming in Q4 of this year. I can't tell you specifics. How's it going to work? Is it just Einstein Discovery, then, kind of, in the Tableau interface? I can't answer that because it's not in the product yet. But if you were going to make a decision about any kind of, model building applications with Tableau or Einstein Discovery, you might want to just kind of hold tight because it's coming, at least you'll know about it, or kind of what it is and kind of how it's going to be different than Einstein Discovery and Tableau. But again, Q4, I believe, is the tentative kind of where we are thinking it's going to get released. Do not go buy something because it's coming in Q4, tentative, yeah. That's the one thing that I can get in trouble for, so again, don't make any investment decisions of anything that's not in the product yet. But I do believe, like I said, reasonably confident that in Q4 of this year, you will see at least more information, if not the actual release itself, around the Tableau model builder. Again, I don't know if we committed to a name yet, but there is something coming in Q4 that is. That's what I mean. Yeah, we talked about it at conference. That's what I mean. It's not Einstein Discovery and Tableau. Now, it could incorporate pieces of it. It could be a hybrid. I don't know, but it's just more of an FYI. But Einstein Discovery and Tableau, again, just like I said before, technically, if I'm being honest, you can try it, meaning that it is possible to demo this thing without spending any money. I got the links in there for you. You can create basically a trial Salesforce org. They walk you through it. There's a blog post where there's a Salesforce blog post where they walk you through how to actually test out Einstein Discovery and Tableau for yourself. So they give you a little fake data set. They give you the instructions to basically build a model, train the model, deploy the model in Salesforce, and they walk you through how to integrate it with the extension in Tableau. So I encourage you, if you really want to actually play around, you can for free. That still works to this day, but there's also a lot of other information around Einstein Discovery in general as well, meaning that Einstein Discovery, to your point, it's a larger platform, a very powerful platform that's part of Salesforce. Einstein Discovery and Tableau is just an extension in Tableau that leverages Einstein Discovery in Salesforce. So with that, I'm sorry I kept you guys for so long. And Oren has a question, but yeah, if there's any questions on the chat, I kind of want to let those guys go, and then you guys, in the room can kind of hang out and go as you please. But Oren, hang on one second. Are there any questions in the chat? Okay. Good point. Again, this is on that Tableau public dashboard. Data science integration. Data science was that far end of the spectrum, and when we talk about the data science integration, that's where we talk about R, TabPy, MATLAB. Again, like I said, this is good stuff because they'll walk you through kind of, some help, like if you want to set up your own TabPy server, some guidance on kind of how to do that and things of that nature. So again, I encourage you, that data science integration link has links to other things where, again, what to know, what you need to generate your own TabPy, so on and so forth. If you want to know more about data science, check out that link in that Tableau public dashboard. I appreciate everyone who attended. Oren, I'm not gonna forget about you. But everyone who attended, virtually, everyone in the room, thank you again. My name is Rashid Minott. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I got a million links. I got an email. We'll get it to you through like how we sent you the invite. So anyone who wants more information, we'll get you, like I said, kind of a recap of everything that we covered today. But with that, thanks again, everyone. Enjoy your evening. All right, thanks for you guys virtually too as well. Oh, no problem.